Greetings, geeks! Welcome to episode 380 of Geeks in Space. I am Rob Commander Taco Malda. I am turning off the title card and saying hello to my friends. Hello, boys.
Hey, Rob.
I'm a man, thank you.
Rob.
What's new and exciting with you guys? Are we having fun? Are we friends?
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Why? What have you heard?
You don't want to see the list. I'm tracking a Google Doc.
All right.
I mean, we all share it. You're the only one not invited.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So by far the most interesting thing, and I'm glad that it's Nate here today and not Chris because he hates classic gaming. But Billy Mitchell is back in the news.
If by the news you mean the tiny corner of the internet where people care about high Donkey Kong scores on non-emulated environments.
Also Pac-Man.
To be fair, I don't think his fame has anything to do specifically with those two things. It's more about what a jerk he is. At least, his persona.
Yeah.
He's a treat. I've been meaning to rewatch King of Kong. I watched it when it first came out and I really enjoyed it tremendously. But I feel like I need to rewatch it just to really get angry about it. But he tried to sue some Cartoon Network show that had a character making fun of him, and he's everywhere.
Yeah, he is not shy about using the courts to make a point. And having spoken to him briefly in real life, I will say that a lot of times you don't know what someone's really like because of how editing works, because of whatever agenda a filmmaker has.
Right.
My experience with him was that it's pretty spot on. What you see in that documentary is kind of who Billy Mitchell is. So.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I watched a video clip of him recently. There's the scene in King of Kong where they show them switching a board around. Is it a Donkey Kong Jr. board, or is it a modified board, or is it a traditional Donkey Kong board? And it's in the movie, it's very much framed as something suspicious is happening here. And
Right.
There's actually clips of him talking about that. And it's really funny how dismissive he is. It was satire. They were doing a bit.
Yeah.
He, to me, is very much the very clear case of how, nobody's the villain in their own story. Everybody has an elaborate set of justification to rationalize whatever bad life choices they've made. And they believe it wholeheartedly and 100% and without doubt. And he is that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't sat him down on a couch and figured out all his dreams and stuff like that. But my experience with him was he was kind of abrasive and a little bit dismissive, just like that. So
I guess you could play the devil's advocate. I mean, all the terrible things that people have said about us over the years, and only 30 or 40% of them were true.
Well, sure. Also, he is very interested in his hot sauce yet, or at least was.
Oh, he's still doing
last
that?
time we had contact, so there's that.
I mean, I don't know that I would want to buy Billy Mitchell hot sauce. I don't know that that's a selling point to me. He was the King of Kong, but I'm not sure if that makes me really want him to be my guide to flavor country.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it would improve your classic gaming scores. Maybe that's the secret.
Oh, that reminds me. I have this thing.
Oh, hey, that's cool.
This is the LDK Horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
They are on the eBays for in the neighborhood of $50. So they're on the pricier end of the Chinese super cheap handhelds, but without going retro pie and building something fancy. And this is kind of the price point for these things. My total reason for wanting it was because my PSP cannot play Super Mario World without dropping frames, which kind of boggles my mind that one is too much for the PS.
Whatever, 250 megahertz processor can't successfully emulate at a 16 megahertz processor.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But like I've been really wanting to really sit down because I never beat Super Mario World as a kid, and I have a save file on OpenEMU on my Mac, which is like 80% of the way through the game. But every time I don't like playing console games like with a console buttons on a PC screen. I want that on my TV and on my Raspberry Pi. I don't know. I just don't feel like playing Mario World on my Raspberry Pi. I actually played more in television games on that thing at this point. I like playing the Astro Smash.
So your satisfaction with the handheld, is it recommended?
Oh, it doesn't drop frames on Super Mario World. That's about the extent of my testing. I've built a lot of MAME machines over the years, and this one, I mean, I haven't tested it with like I haven't done anything beyond Super Mario World and a couple of other random games, but it's not dropping frames. I wish the screen was like 2 inches bigger, but that's a different price point.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is going to be like, I'm gonna keep playing through it. But I think the screen is going to be too small for my mid 40-something-year-old eyeballs.
What's the screen size on it?
Like 2.7 or something.
That's pretty small.
I mean, what do I have here? That is here is a Microsoft mouse for size comparison. It is there is my Microsoft mouse, and I totally just clicked on the streaming box. So I don't know what that did, but I just clicked on the streaming box. But I mean, it's not much bigger than the Microsoft mouse side to side. The D-pad feels good. It's got the weird the analog stick, which I don't care about because all the games I'm interested in are PlayStation 1 era and earlier, where we didn't have that fancy stuff. But it gets the job done. It fundamentally has one major problem, which is that the select and start buttons are actually under the B and A button. So I pretty routinely accidentally pause my game while I'm playing, just by accidentally bumping the button. But one thing I do like is that it has a second SD card. It has two SD cards, and one of them is like behind the battery and buried, but that's the one that has the operating system on.
Gotcha.
And it has a second SD card, which you can just stick the games on, which is actually pretty convenient. Although I bought a 128 gig card because that's like cheap now. And it turns out that I only have like 1 gig of ROMs. So it's a little bit of overkill. But the LDK company is making a new one that looks like it's going to have a bigger screen, like the size, like not like Switch sized screen, but maybe a little bit more to PSP sized screen. I want a retro game that's Switch sized, and I'm kind of thinking maybe that would be a build project for me, because I don't think anybody's really selling anything at that form factor.
I mean, you can root a Switch and and run homebrew on it. It's just that the community's not there yet.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard rooting the active platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for it, but I guess I can't really root my Switch because my children actually use it on a nearly daily basis. It is their platform of choice. And I don't think that it would be very kind of me as a father to take away their joy.
What I really want is the SMOC Z or the GP Win32, the PC-based handhelds, to come down in price and become like actually not Kickstarter vaporware, so that the Switch is great because it's a ports machine. Like they have all these PC games that have been ported to it. Like if you could just have a Steam console that was that size and form factor and cost $300-400, I'd be happy.
There's a whole slew of like cheap Chinese imports that are vaguely in that form factor, but none of them are really. The reviews of them all seem to be pretty poor. I mean, like this one doesn't even have high enough resolution to display the original NES TV resolution.
Gotcha.
It's dropping, whatever percentage of pixels that it needs to do, and the pixels aren't square. They're like the weird, like overlaid, angled pixels. Whatever you need more green or whatever in order to make the human eye perceive better. However those rules work. I didn't pay attention in that class. But I want one that actually has square pixels. But it would be nice to also find one that was like roughly 2x the 80s TV screen, so you could like do a nice scaled image without it looking all mushy and weird and blurry.
Some of the AI scalers I've seen are crazy good. Like you play Sonic the Hedgehog on them, and it looks high def.
OpenEMU has a whole bunch of them, and it simulates really well. But again, that's like without having a GPU. That's the sort of thing I think that is going to kind of be murder on something that's trying to fit into this form factor.
Oh, sure. No, I mean, different. $40 price point is different than what your $1,000 PC can run.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They're supposed to be putting out one of these that's like an inch bigger screen at some point. But the main thing for me is that it plays the games that I care about fast enough. Like around PlayStation 1 is when I sort of got too busy with school and work and life to care about video games like that anymore. So I don't need it to emulate. The Nintendo 64 is the last platform that I actually cared about. Like I really would like to replay Mario 64. I really liked that game. We logged a lot of good hours in Voorhees trying to collect those stars. That was where did you have Tekken in Voorhees?
Yeah, I had the PlayStation and Tekken 2 and 3.
I seem to remember that we played about 1 billion hours of Tekken in the Voorhees era.
I had such a bad case of Tekken thumb.
That was the time where you played until your hands hurt and then just kept going because God damn it.
Because that's what you do.
I'll be damned if Ryan Postman is going to beat me with Yoshimitsu again.
Yeah.
So Taco Zone has a really cool picture of Saturn that they took with the Hubble, which is really neat and just worth seeing because we can do that now. It's one of those pictures that almost looks like a computer render, but it's like a straight up photo, which is pretty neat. You can't keep your relatives' skulls anymore, Rob.
Ugh.
I know.
Well, actually, this story isn't so much for me as it is for necromancers and Danzig enthusiasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't. It turns out it is well. It's at least from what I can tell, problematic to get the law to agree to have your grandpa's skull filled with jelly beans on your kitchen table. There's evidently a lot of hurdles you have to go over to get that done.
Yeah. What if it's not a relative? What if it's just a skull that you happen to come into possession of?
Well, I know there's some really weird rules with actual shrunken heads because for a while it was sort of in vogue to collect shrunken heads or jarred whatever. So there's a lot of laws that have cracked down on that sort of thing. So this comes really as no surprise. The article is interesting though in that it sort of touches on how difficult it is to do stuff that used to be common, like burying a loved one in your backyard.
Yeah.
Which I understand there, HOA rules about that sort of thing now. You for sure want the casket to be no more than 6 feet long, and buried a certain depth so the dogs don't dig it up. But
yeah, my homeowners association doesn't even really want me composting. So I can't imagine how they would feel about, decomposing great grandma.
Putting Aunt Bertha in the flower garden
it's because this is your ancestral home, right, Rob? I mean, this is something that you are going to put in your will that it gets passed down to the 4 generations.
That's right. Yes. I don't know. I've always been pretty clear that I want my body used for anything useful scientific, and I don't really care what it is, just so long as it's actually useful for science in some way.
What about for like comedic purposes.
I mean,
Bernie's,
like
yeah.
used in a puppet show. Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's. What a delightful idea.
I hadn't considered that. Like, I do kind of feel like in many ways my life is a joke. So it would seem fitting to, really just go out on a bang.
Like an encore performance.
Totally. All right. I'll have to work on this. I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to amend my will or anything, but I always just kind of wanted something useful to occur after my death, because Lord knows I haven't done anything useful in years. And it would be kind of nice to, know that somebody did something. But yeah, a good joke. Like if it was like the kind of joke that really could change the world.
Oh,
maybe they use you in some sort of marketing diorama to promote awareness of whatever killed you, so people know not to get old.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that the coyotes in my neighborhood are going to get me.
Really?
Yeah, we got coyotes around here.
You should start carrying a bat.
Not going to work when you're dead, though. When you're already dead, you're going to need to set up some automated defenses so that when the coyotes come to devour you, lasers or robotic arms with bats smash them.
Well, they can also burn you up and then use some portion of your ashes to make a jewel, right? You can get that made into a ring or a lovely brooch, maybe. Maybe if you have a gem cutter in the family, you can make earrings made, or just one really cool earring.
I mean, my dad could probably like inlay me into like a guitar or something.
There you go.
Sure. Yeah.
I think we should just go back to like trophies, like just give your kid a box with your ears in it.
Well, and I'll just, for the record here, if science has no need for my skull, like if they decide that the best scientific use for my body, is like crash test dummy or something like that, and my skull shows up, like comes out of that whole thing useful, you guys are welcome to it.
I'm sure the world scientists are eagerly, they already have a file somewhere of Rob Mulda's skull. This is, we've had the 35th International Conference on Rob Mulda's skull this year and talked about all the great things we're going to do once that puppy becomes available.
We can't wait to break out the measuring tools and start cranking out some data.
Get the phrenology has been waiting so long for this development.
Yep. No, I don't want you guys to use my skull necessarily. Like so here's the way that it goes in my imagination. Science does something useful with my body, like drops me out of an airplane or something. I don't care. But when that's done,
skull donor. So that's
Once that whole thing is done, if you guys could like make my head into a jelly bean jar, I'm in. That's awesome.
Huh.
I much prefer the idea of my bones being used as a decorative element than just decomposing underground. I hate that.
I think the thing we're overlooking right now is that there's wives to consider now, too.
Yeah.
It's not just our decision. I'm sure the wives will have something to say about it.
Like 10 years from now, if my children and wife want to go mourn my death, they have to go and mourn in front of Nate's jelly bean jars.
Right.
Nate, can I have a coconut?
Oh, no. The jelly bean jar is a side effect, but really we used it for apprentice trepanning. So, people can learn the ancient art of trepanning on a real human skull.
I'm in.
And according to Rob's wishes, we only fill it with Swedish fish.
Yeah. I don't know what would I put in my skull if I got to choose. I mean, M&Ms would probably be more my choice. Maybe peanut M&Ms. They're pretty good. I mean, these days you have to worry about peanut M&Ms killing all of the classmates in your kid, like a kid in your fourth grade class. But it's totally fine for one of the kids to just show up with the measles. We live in a weird world.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, to be fair, I think a little bit of that happened when we were kids too. We just didn't care about it.
Exactly. Just kids got the measles.
Yeah.
Or
died of, peanut allergies.
I think I would put the most realistic gummy worms I could find in my skull, like with a couple like hanging out.
Oh, that would be cool. Like you could like mold. What if? Okay, now we're going next level. You get like a jelly mold, and like actually like make gelatin like gummy brain, and like actually keep like a gummy brain in a skull.
It's hard to offer that to guests, though.
You give them a spoon. It'd be like in Temple.
Well, then you really want to have 12 of your closest friends and relatives die so that you can get a complete, a complete dinner set.
See, now we're getting careful. We're getting really close to like my long-term goals of murdering everyone, like in some like cult style murder suicide pact.
And using their heads for measuring cups.
Yeah. Rob, you're going to be the quart. Don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you. I can't wait till you put preserved peaches in my head.
Exactly. Measure you out for pie filling.
Yes.
We're going to go need to murder a couple of neighbors because I got some fresh peaches I want to can.
So anyway, all that stuff evidently is illegal.
we should not. We should not.
Society and the law frown on it.
We should not go out and assess people based on their head volume for measurement purposes.
Why are you carrying a tape measure and measuring the circumference of all your neighbors' skulls, Rob?
Hold on. Just need to do some computations. I'm missing a third cup.
You look like you might be a third cup. Hold still. Oh, this is truly dark.
Yeah.
Which is good because I don't really want to talk about RMS.
That's okay. We don't have to talk about RMS.
That's the only other thing that's really on the list.
What's there really to talk about? I mean, yeah.
He's an uncomfortable weirdo, and it finally caught up with him.
Yeah, I guess. It turns out you really just can't say whatever crazy shit you want forever. Eventually there is a line.
Right. Eventually they catch you, and that line is somewhere before you are cleaning the skulls of your dead friends and using them as candy dishes in your office.
Yeah. Before that.
Right. Before. So let's see. Spider-Man is out on streaming this week. So I can watch that for a fifth time. Pretty excited about that.
I finally did watch it.
What's your verdict?
I think he's my favorite. That movie has my favorite MJ, my favorite Ant, my favorite Spider-Man. Didn't really give two shits about Mysterio. I think he's a pretty lame character, so they didn't really have much of a chance. But it was okay. But yeah, it doesn't matter about all that now because he's dead. Because two businesses can't get along.
Well, the rumor now is that this is all just a big negotiating ploy between the two, and that they're going to settle it, and it's just going to be at a different percentage split.
Yeah. What's the deal? Is there a contract dispute over?
Oh, this is Sony versus Disney. So the deal was apparently, and I might be butchering this, but Sony licensed Spider-Man back to Marvel for 5 appearances in the MCU, and there was like a 50-50 revenue split on the actual Spider-Man movies. Now they have Tom Holland locked in for one more movie in his contract. But Marvel refuses to produce another Spider-Man movie unless it's under like some sort of advantageous revenue share.
Gotcha.
Now, the rumor is that what Sony wants to do is get another Spider-Man movie out of Marvel, but also they want to make a Venom movie that's connected to the MCU because the MCU movies just make so much more money than their standalone movies. And I don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't know that I actually care. It would suck to try to do a Spider-Man movie outside of the MCU because after the finale of the last one,
Well, yeah. Particularly with the last movie, which is all about him taking over the mantle of Iron Man.
Right.
So that would make a very strange movie where suddenly they can't mention anything that happened in the last quarter of actually throughout the film.
Right. So the thing that I thought was really interesting there is that if you look at the Spider-Man in the MCU, he deviates in a whole list of very clear ways from the comic book Spider-Man. And they claim that this was actually intentionally done to delineate an MCU Spider-Man from a theoretical Sony Spider-Man. Should that happen? In which case, there's a bunch of things. There's the super mechanical Iron Man made Spider-Man suit. There's young Aunt May. There's MJ being like a snarky, sarcastic girl, and not like the more bubbly sort of traditional Mary Jane, the redhead. But all of the of these changes.
The Sony Spider-Man kept the skull of Uncle Ben too. I've heard. So.
Right. I mean, he needed a container to store web fluid.
Yeah. Right. With great power comes great reusability.
That's beautiful, and I think that's probably a good place for us to say our farewells.
Well, it's been an interesting one today.
Right. A little more macabre than usual.
If you like murder and handheld devices, this one's for you.
Oh yeah.
You're welcome, Jake.
You're so welcome, Jake. All right, folks. I'm gonna put up the title, the goodbye card, and you guys can say your goodbyes.
See you next time.
Later.
Thanks for listening to episode 380 of Geeks in Space. I am Rob, Commander Takamaldo. Press all the various buttons that you're supposed to press now to show your appreciation, and thanks, Jake. Bye.